Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Anthony and B Fly Show, right here on Vibration Radio.
Now, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our guest for today. She's an author, wife, and mother. I personally love the fact that she has been writing since she was 9. We are honored to have Selena Haskins on today's show. How you doing, Selena?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Great.
Doing great. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. And B, I wish I had a chance to go to IHOP this morning.
Look, Selena, I was telling Anthony, I was like, I might have should have did this after the show.
I feel you. I'll do my best to keep you woke, honey, because I know how good that food is.
But it was good, though. It was good. I would share it with you guys if I could.
Oh, how sweet.
So how you doing today?
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm so glad that you guys scheduled me for your show so I can have an opportunity to chat with you and just fill people in on a little bit about me, and my book and so forth. So I do want to thank you guys so much, and I appreciate you guys and what you do for putting, literary artists out there. And Anthony, I know you have a new book coming out soon. So
Yes.
So, I do my homework, too.
I thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. And, look, I'm going to spread the love, too, and support. So don't you worry. You just let me know when yours come out, and I'm going to have it all on my website.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I really appreciate the support. Awesome. That's great. That's outstanding. That is outstanding. Oh, well, Selena, I wanted to start off with one of my questions. And, me and B-Fly usually just feed off each other's energy and go back and forth. But when I went over your bio, I saw that you have been writing since you were 9. How did you know at such a young age that this would be your passion?
I didn't know at a young age, actually. What happened was my mother would always buy these activity books, like the little variety books where you can color and do a bunch of different things. And so every time you would get to those particular sections where it say, you had to explain what was going on in a picture or something like that, I would be, very elaborate with mine, turning the pages even. And I'm sure you guys remember those composition books we all had to buy for school. I just remember, filling those up. I kept journals when I was really young. And so I guess around high school was when I really realized that that's what I wanted to do. As I look back on it, I was always writing, but I wasn't sure that would actually be my passion until later.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Wow, that's great. That's great your mom did that. That's outstanding. I mean, she really kept kind of planted that seed for you.
She did. I still remember my first typewriter being up all night long with that loud thing, just clicking away.
Wow.
And then had silent electric typewriters.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember them. Man, my mom had one of those loud typewriters, and I never really got into it until later. But that thing used to be so aggravating. I used to go all the way back and just like it was hitting the wall, and you be typing. That was it.
And the little bell at the end, ding, when you get to the end.
Oh yeah, the bell too. Man,
and look, you didn't have. You had to use that little bottle whiteout. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
See, a lot of the young ones that probably listen, they don't know about that. They might see it in the movies or something, but they probably not even taking typing tests or anything like that these days. They probably take typing tests on computers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember those activity books too. My mom, boy, she used to pull them out like no other. Oh Lord, here we go again with another activity. But they were good, though. You know, they got you prepped and ready because my mom was one of those moms, like, even when school wasn't in, we were still learning something. We had to still keep the juices flowing. So I definitely remember those activity books, and she even has bought some for my nephews now. I don't know where she bought it from, but it's still going, so I definitely remember those activity books.
Yes, they have a lot of them still in, like, some of the drugstores and maybe even some of your dollar stores.
Yeah.
So that was enough to keep my brother not busy throughout the summer, that's for sure.
Great. Oh, yeah. B-Fly, I know you have some questions, comments.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what was one of the actual first, pieces that you wrote that you were really proud of? What was that piece?
My first published piece was actually an article in a journal called DC Writers Way. I used to be a part of an organization called DC Writers Way, so we had a journal that was published quarterly, and that particular article was about basketball. I'm a huge basketball fan, as you guys probably read already, but I decided to write about one particular game that I played against this guy who thought he could beat me because I was a girl. So that was really, one of my best pieces as far as my first published piece that I really enjoyed because it kind of showed that, girls got game too. So,
right.
And some of the guys, when they would read it, they would say, "No, you exaggerating," And I say, "No, I wasn't exaggerating." I ended up winning, and he ended up being embarrassed. So, I know. You laughing over there, Anthony. I know you cracking up. But
no. Really, the reason why I'm laughing because you brought back some memories because I remember growing up, like between 13 and 17, it was this girl in my neighborhood, and she really could play. She actually went a long way in her career. And I remember the first time she came to the court and she wanted to play, and I was considered the one that, was like the one who would pick the players and stuff like that, and I wouldn't let her play. So after the game, she's like, "Now I want to play you one-on-one." And I played her, and she beat me. She actually could play real good. And then but it was nothing like, so she beat me that one game, and then after that, I kept beating her, but it was always really hard. So after that, I would always pick her up. She was always my first choice, and we played throughout our high school years. So that's why I'm laughing because you brought back that memory. Oh yeah, I mean it's a lot of young ladies that definitely can play the game. Most definitely.
Oh yeah. I wish I had gone all the way. I didn't. Kind of knee injuries kind of hindered that, but it is what it is. I have another dream now that I am achieving, and that's writing. So.
Great. Well, tell us more about your book. A River Moves Forward. Give us a description without giving too much, of what the book is about and your thought process behind that project.
A River Moves Forward is a story about Connie Morris, who grows up in Chicago's Cabrini Green during the 60s and the 70s. And she lives in Cabrini with her two sisters, Peaches, Baby, and these are nicknames, and her parents. And what happens is she suffers abuse from her father and kind of is treated like the black sheep of the family and almost like an outcast in her neighborhood as well. And tragedy strikes the family. So as a result of this tragedy, she finds herself virtually the last survivor. She has to prove that she can survive without her family. And she meets and falls in love with Dean Wilson, who's a police officer. And once the two of them fall in love, she finds out he may know something about the tragedies in her family. So, that's when things kind of turns into like different twists and turns. So I'm trying not to give it away. But
give it away. Give it away. I want the floor.
But it's a lot that goes on.
Find out.
originally this story started off, I found a rough draft of mine. It was about 3 sisters, and originally they lived in the South, and I decided that because the manuscript itself was older. It took me 5 years to write this book, actually. So anyway, when I came across the manuscript, I decided to just change it up because, there are a lot of issues that I wanted to address, and I also wanted to make it more urban. And, Anthony, you being from Chicago, I'm sure you are well aware of a lot of things that, happens in urban society today.
Yes.
So I wanted to inculcate some of those issues. Although I'm a native Washingtonian, I can still relate, being from D.C., I can relate to, the gang violence, the drugs, and things of that nature. And Chicago had a lot of that during the 60s and 70s, too. And even now, here we are 30-something years later facing the same issues in Chicago. So I thought the timing was perfect, I felt, to kind of address some of those issues as well, although it is a book of fiction.
Wow. Yeah, great. Hey, that's perfect. That's a great concept. Great thought process behind that project. B-Fly, anything you want to add?
Yeah, you said that you mentioned that it took you 5 years. What took you 5 years? Was it just that you wanted it to be, perfect? You wanted it to be the way that you wanted it to be, or was it, just an extensive process to create it?
It took 5 years because it was a lot of stop and go. Just life events, that took place. I got married, and then I had my son. So there were just a few pauses in my life that I would have to write a while, stop, and then pick back up. That was all. So that's what took so long.
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. In a nutshell, life happened.
I can understand.
Yeah.
No problem. Hey, that's a great answer. Just being real life. A question I want to ask you is, I usually always ask the authors that come onto our show this question. What advice do you have for first-time published authors?
Well, the one piece of advice I have is definitely try to do your homework as much as you can as far as, research. We have so much at our disposal right now with the Internet that that has been very helpful to me. Throughout this process, actually networking with other authors who are more seasoned than I am have shared so much advice with me that it's just unbelievable. Like, everything you can't read in a book, so a lot of things you will learn along the way. And you just have to be patient. You just have to be patient, really. You definitely need patience in this business, and I can't emphasize that part enough.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm trying to learn that.
It's hard because, we all get anxious to share. As a writer, it's natural for you to want to share, but timing is everything. Thinking about your audience is key, and then wanting to put out the best product that you think people will enjoy. And it's almost like I liken publishing your first book to getting married. You can plan your wedding, and if you watch the videotape of your wedding, there will always be something you would go back and change. And so you just look at that. You just look at that first book. Look, you may even want to change the person you marry, but I can't say that too loud. My husband's upstairs listening, so I wouldn't change him, though. But what I'm saying is that your first book is more like a learning experience because there will always be something about it that you may want to change. And the only thing you can do is pick from those experiences and just make it better during your sophomore book, or if you were a musician, your sophomore CD. So that's the type of advice that I would give.
Great, thanks. Great.
You had mentioned the audience, knowing what type of audience you want to appeal to. Like for you, what type of audience do you, try to, gear your books more towards?
My books are geared more towards, I like to call it contemporary urban fiction, and more towards women who are like mid to early 40s, like mid-30s, early 40s, and men as well. I think because I talk about certain time periods, like the 60s and 70s, like, I don't know you guys' age, but you kind of understand somewhat when I was talking about the typewriter and the activity book, you kind of get a feel that we are in that, we can relate to those particular time periods in a sense, either whether we heard about it from our parents or actually was born in those eras or grew up in that time period. So those are the people that I try to target, like a somewhat mature audience. And I like to call it contemporary urban fiction from the standpoint that I talk about issues that are really serious, and I also try to express how you can overcome those particular issues. So it's not like, I'm just talking like straight hood and, there's no way out, like I'm kind of, I got to be careful here what I say, but I'm just saying that it's contemporary in the sense that those are the particular people that I prefer to address, the audience who I feel would appreciate it more.
Right. So basically you want to put out what, real life issues, but then you want to show people that here's what the outcome or the positive results can be from going through these situations.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
I get you.
So currently, if I'm going off memory a little bit, but I think I remember in your bio you was mentioning like you write different articles for certain different vendors or venues. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
You said you read in my bio about different. I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear you.
I think you said. I think I'm going off memory, but I believe in your bio you was mentioning that you wrote different articles for different venues, like certain other organizations. Am I correct?
Oh, that was the DC Writers Way. That organization has actually dissolved now, and because the director of that particular organization, he was actually a professional dancer, so he decided to head to New York and pursue his dreams, and he's doing quite well. But since then, I have not wrote any articles for like anyone locally. I do blog, so people can visit my website and check out some articles there. As far as upcoming stuff, though, I will be contributing to a portrait collection that should be coming out soon, and working on a collection of inspirational stories for women, and it will be myself and authors Adrienne Thompson, Janice Ross, Tina Brown, Nicole Dunlap, and I think another new author, Tamika Christie. So I tried to unite with some other independent authors to put together pieces, real-life pieces based on our real-life experiences that will help women. So that should be coming out this fall.
Oh, that's great. That sounds and for everyone, real quick, shoot out your website. I know we'll get to it later on in the show, but I just want to keep it in people's mind. What's your website again? Sure.
It's Books by Selena. That's BooksBySelena.com. BooksBySelena.com.
Great.
That's my Twitter handle as well, at Books by Selena.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna look you up. I don't know if we following each other on Twitter. I'm about to check that out now. But a question that just popped in my head. I know you're from Washington. So and when you talk about your book, A River Moves Forward, I don't know if you had explained, like, what made you pick Chicago? It was just a vision or a thought, and you just related to Chicago, or what was that about?
I picked Chicago. Actually, I was thinking a little bit about Cooley High, to be honest with you. And and you may get that feel when you're reading the book because, like I said, talking about the 60s and the 70s, Cooley High was like the first setting that came to my mind. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to pick Chicago. So I did do my research on Chicago during those time periods, and I tried to make it, as realistic as I possibly could. And now I need to come and visit you guys so I can get the real feel.
That'll be great.
So,
well, that's something that we can definitely put in play because next year I'm having a live studio, so I'm gonna be live. It's gonna be video and audio. So that'll be great
awesome.
if we can set something up when you come in and do a live interview. So yeah, that's something that we're trying to do for the future.
Oh, well, that's great, Anthony. I wish you the best with that. Definitely, yeah, let's keep in touch. I'll definitely come out there. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. B-Fly, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I do want to ask you, being an independent author, what are the challenges with that? Because sometimes I know we've heard different authors on the show talk about how challenging it can be to be independent versus, with a company and so forth. Have you found it challenging?
It is a challenge, I tell you that much. Money is the challenge.
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm just keeping it real with you. When you're independent, it's fun being your own boss, but honey, you have to pay for everything. Please believe me. You have to pay for everything. That's my challenge. Versus if you pursue the traditional way of publishing, then the publishing company pretty much takes care of the majority of that for you, but then you don't have a lot of say-so all the time. So, you just kind of, that's still my ultimate goal. Like, if a publishing company were to, pick up my title and, we can definitely negotiate. I think I know enough now, doing it on my own, that when it's time to negotiate a contract, I know what to look for. I can tell you that.
Right.
So, that is a big challenge when you're doing it independently is finance. At least for me, I can't speak for everyone else, but finance was definitely one of them.
Right.
Wow.
You had mentioned you and a couple ladies wanting to put out, you mentioned yourself specifically about, wanting to put out, positive stories for women and so forth. Of course, we see all kind of stuff in the media, especially with reality shows and how we as women act on these reality shows and TV and so forth. So as far as putting together those positive stories, what kind of message do you want to send out to women, in regards to just womanhood in general?
Well, I think we need more of a positive image expressed about ourselves, but we have the key. We're responsible for ourselves. So these reality shows and things of that nature, they would not exist if we didn't give them our permission. So we as women have to realize what our power is. Are we going to degrade ourselves for $1? Can your grandparents or your parents sit around and honestly look at you parade yourself on national TV in that way? Is that something you can feel proud about? And then also from a viewer standpoint, if other women didn't watch those shows, then they wouldn't exist. So it's twofold. It's twofold. The people who want to make it in the entertainment industry, want to make a name for themselves, to what extent? How far are you willing to go? And then, from a viewer standpoint, why do you find that entertaining? And the reason you find it entertainment is because, let's be honest, women love drama. Drama sells. Drama sells, but positivity can sell too. It all starts with changing your mindset. For example, people enjoy watching Ayanna Van Sant's show about Fix My Life. She's helping people to better themselves.
Right.
So we could use more shows like that. And so in uniting together with putting together these collection pieces, myself and the other authors that I mentioned, it's time to, turn over a new leaf, even in the literary genre. What do you see on the front covers these days? I had to walk down another aisle. I was with my son, and I'm walking down the aisle because I like to, stay up to date with what's happening in the industry. And I felt like I was walking down a porno aisle. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. I mean, and who's on the front? Women with their butts hanging out and everything else. I mean, so, and it's not just me who recognizes this, but it's some of our seasoned authors too, because I think Terry McMillan was saying, it's sad that we have trashed, our own genre. We're trashing it so that, and that's what I meant by I consider myself a contemporary urban author, because I don't want to be categorized into that. I mean, to each his own, whatever you want to read, so be it. But I have things that I choose to contribute to and things that I choose not, just my personal preference. So,
that's a great response, and we're going to take a short break, and I want to really touch back on that and definitely get more into your book. But you really hit a lot of things about the reality shows, women images, and how we hold the key. We're about to take a quick break right here on the Anthony B. Fly Show. We'll be right back.
Great Sunday afternoon. I'm your host from the Anthony B. Fly Show, Anthony. First, I would simply like to say thank you to everyone that's been supporting our show, supporting us on the group page on Facebook. Me and B. Fly really do appreciate it. For me personally, it's finally here, live, my website, www.anthonydcollins.com, where I'm featuring my new blog titled Aggressively Demanding Change. Check me out. I'm challenging everyone to be attentive and awareness to this blog, because I'm bringing all type of social issues, relationship issues, parenting issues that needs to be heard. I don't believe we should ask for change. I believe we should take and demand change. So with that being said, again, we here on the Anthony B. Fly Show appreciate your support. And don't forget about my book, January of 2014, titled Life is Outstanding. But right now, let's get back to the Anthony and B. Fly Show.
Welcome back to the Anthony B. Fly Show. I'm your host, Anthony, alongside a wonderful and great co-host, B. Fly. And today we have our special guest, Selena Haskins, who's really hitting home on a lot of important issues that I love to talk about. B. Fly know how passionate I am about the reality shows and things of that nature. Selena, I'm so glad you took it to this level about the reality shows, because, I can't stand them. I'm not going to lie. 90% of them is just, to me, in my opinion, just trash. And I have watched all of them because I just like to be aware, and then I had to pull myself out of it, because you'll kind of get yourself caught up in the negativity. You really would. But I can't lie, I have watched at least all of them at least once. Even the ones that the baseball wives, and kind of like other cultures, the mob wives, who mostly Italian women. I've tried to at least watch them once, just to get an understanding on what's going on in the media world. But you said something that really hit home, and that we hold the key, because if we didn't support or watch these shows, they wouldn't be able to exist.
Exactly.
that's really important in my mind, and I commend you on taking that stance in your work and being vocal about that, because that's something that I believe that we need to do, and I do it a lot. You know, I talk about the reality shows all the time because it's my true belief. I understand that it's a career for a lot of people, but my thing is that after your first season, to me, you should be able to change your image. You should be able to change that look and kind of like put some demands on what you will and won't do when it comes to these shows, because, you know, most of these young ladies have kids. And I live by a quote by a man named Dr. Umar Johnson, where he says that children react on what they see, not what you tell them. If they see something, then that's how they're going to react. They're not going to react on what you're telling them if you're doing something else visual. So I think that's something very important that we all have to take consideration of. And again, I just commend you on taking a stance on that.
Well, thank you.
I mean, I have to agree. Anthony knows I'm a reality show junkie, but I'm a reality show junkie for a couple reasons. Mainly because I do have a degree in psychology and sociology. So for me, I like to observe, and it's always interesting. Like, although people look at this and they look at foolishness and so forth, people have to understand there are women and men in these reality shows who actually think like this. You know, their mindset is actually in this way. And the thing about it, as you said, the reality shows wouldn't go anywhere if the ratings wasn't there. And the sad part is that you have young girls who look at these women on TV who, you know, imitate them, and they start believing that they can have this life that they see these girls on these reality shows, and some of them have no idea what these girls on these shows have done to even get to where they are. And it's not always a positive thing. Some of them have really been through some wild and crazy things, but particularly on one show, Love and Hip Hop. It was a girl on there named K. Michelle. She's an artist. She's an R&B artist. But K. Michelle was known for just being wild and, as people like to call, ratchet and just out there. But when she became onto a music label, they told her, look, you either going to have to pull back or you're going to lose your career, meaning she was damaging her image on TV. And she was one of these, you know, celebs where she would go on Twitter and people would say stuff, she would go off like just crazy. And so they took away her Twitter. Like, she has someone now who actually manages some of her social sites, because they said if you continue to go down this road, and people have to understand, we all know now, especially when it comes to a brand, people want to protect their brand. So when you become a part of someone else's brand, they're not going to let you drag them down the hole with them. You know, so the music company said, look, you either get your act together or you're going to lose your career based off of how you are on TV and how you react to people. So I commend, you know, her the music company for telling her that, because I think a lot of them need their coattails pulled to understand
they do. Absolutely.
that, you know, to understand that you can't keep going around acting a fool, because it's not going to get you to the places that you want to be. And people have to understand, those people in those circles are only limited to certain things. People, I mean, they're not going to be, let's just face it, they're not going to be invited on Oprah. That's not going to happen. They're not, you know, they're not going to be speaking at an engagement at the White House. That's why you have to really open up yourself and know what your full potential is and go after that. Like you said, you know what your desire is as far as being an author and a writer. So you're going for that, and we have to expand beyond, you know, just a little petty stuff that we see on TV and what's produced out here. And I can see how you had to change your son to go from one aisle to another, because what we see on some of these magazines, you would think that you are in a triple X store.
Wow. Yeah.
I just said to myself, I'm glad I didn't publish my rough drafts, because I had to clean them up, because I always want to. I mean, you know, your first thought is what you initially write because it's coming from a place deep inside. It's coming from your heart. It's coming from reality.
Right.
But you go back and you clean it up in such a way, okay, how can I say this but not say it and still get my point across? And see, that's where creativity comes in at. That's where you have to be creative. Because otherwise, to me, it's just lazy writing. You know, you don't have to be extremely blunt to get your point across. And I said, you know, when I publish this book, I want my grandmother to be able to read it. I want my mother to be able to read it. You know, I want people who are dignitaries, so to speak, to be able to read my book and not raise an eyebrow at me, you know, because you talked about branding. I'm not there yet, but my name, I still want to carry a certain level of respect. You know,
you definitely have a brand. Your name is on the book, so you are a brand because you you want your mom to be able to read. So you don't want her to open up the book and be like, ooh, Selena. I can't believe you did.
Well, you have an excellent brand. Just in case you didn't know, because I mean, I've been researching. Even just now, I just followed you on Twitter, and I even said I love your background. I mean, you have an excellent brand. The way you put yourself out here, I love it. You know, so now you definitely have a brand.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you definitely. I'm really excited. This show is really exciting me because you guys are talking about some great issues. But I actually have a theory about this reality show, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because recently, you know, my daughter, she's like 14, and she always convinced me to have these sleepovers with her and her friends. And I just sit back and listen to their conversations. You know, they'll be downstairs, and they take over my man cave downstairs, and I'll just be listening. And they were talking about the reality show, and it was so intriguing and funny to me that they understood that it was fake, that it wasn't real. They was like, girl, that stuff ain't real. That's crazy. That don't even make any sense. But what kills me is that when you have this conversation among adult women between the ages, maybe I would say between 30 and 50, they don't get that concept. They take this stuff to heart. I'll be seeing them
maybe because they've never seen such dramatics on TV before.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you think about it, I mean, remember, like some of the black and white pieces they used to show on TV. It was like taboo for women to be wearing a bra on the TV. You know, so now you can pretty much perform, hence Miley Cyrus, in your underclothes and get away with it. So I don't know. Anything for shock value, but not me.
Absolutely, and it comes, and I think for your daughters and her friends, it's because they're living in, they're living in the now. They know what's really going on around them. And so for girls who don't particularly grow up in these areas, and it's kind of like a little fantasy world, they see these girls with, lavish stuff and, we got $5,000 hair in our head, but we can't pay rent. It's just crazy, elaborate stuff. And so your daughter and her friends are actually living in the now. They know what's really going on. They know that you can't, it's not real to depend on a reality show to make a livelihood off of. But see, other girls who don't know that, that they think, oh, man, I can go and do this. I can go and work at this joint and get on a reality show and make thousands of dollars, So, I mean, it's actually good that they're living in the now, and not in a reality,
Yeah, it was really interesting, for me to overhear that. And then, like I say, when you have conversations with adult women, they take this to a whole other level. They would actually argue up and down about these people's lives on reality TV. They would actually get an attitude with you if you don't agree with them and hang up on you about this stuff. I mean, I've witnessed it.
Oh, yeah, because
wow.
It's living vicariously through somebody else.
Wow.
You living through that person, because a part of that is a part of you that's attracted to that, so some people want to go after that, so, but, Selena, I did want to know for you, what are, or if there are, any challenges for you writing the book? Because you mentioned that you do contemporary urban, and I know you said sometimes you have to kind of watch what you say and things that you put out there. So what are the challenges when trying to produce that contemporary urban book?
The challenge I have is in the dialogue usually, you know, in the language, because some things have to be said depending on the character. Like, for example, in The River Moves Forward, Connie's sister Peaches, she is the total opposite of Connie. I mean, Peaches is like rough, rugged, and raw. But, you know, by the same token, you know, Connie is the opposite. She's more of the voice of reason, so to speak, the calm one. And the challenge is making characters believable still. You know, and for example, if a character is angry, then sometimes they have to just say what they need to say. You know, you can't say like, "Oh, shucks." Okay, who says that? Like, real talk, like, who says that? So to some degree, we don't talk that way, so you still have to make your characters believable in some of the things that they say. It doesn't mean that everything that comes out of their mouth should be something foul. It should just be believable. So those are some of the challenges that I've, you know, faced when I write. So
okay,
I got to keep the emotion there, is what I mean.
Okay, right. No, I understand. I definitely get that. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about your future projects. I know you just mentioned that you're trying to collab with a bunch of independent authors. And is there anything else you're doing for the future? Is that the only project you got coming on, or you know, what else do you have?
Well, I'm definitely working on the sequel to A River Moves Forward. And I'm actually going to touch on a little bit of what we mentioned about the reality shows and things of that nature, because Tracy, Connie's daughter, is going to pick up from our time period. So this one is going to be called Riding the Waves, The Price of Fame and Fortune. So if you read A River Moves Forward, and then when it picks up, it ends with Connie's daughter, you'll kind of understand, like, why I chose the title and the theme. But I'm definitely going to address some of the issues that we just talked about. You know, what price are you willing to pay for fame and fortune? And so readers will get a chance to kind of see how Tracy handles her fortune and fame, like to what extent she's willing to go to make herself into a celebrity like her mother was, or ends up being. So
I like that title. That's gonna be great. I like it.
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Sounds great.
But the immediate future are the projects that I mentioned about the collection piece of inspirational stories this fall, and a poetry collection that I'm working on with some other poets. We are collectively putting together poems called A World of Verse. That's going to be the name of it. And but the sequel will probably be out early next year. I just want to make sure I have enough time to put in that to make it as successful as The River Moves Forward seems to be turning out. So.
Great. Outstanding.
I did want to ask one more question for you, Selena. Is it, because I've always wondered myself, I don't even think I ever shared this on the show, but I had spoke to someone about a book, because I do have several books in mind, in my head, but I just have not wrote them for a series of reasons. But is it scary? Like when you get ready to put out a book, is it scary because you don't know how well the book is actually going to do? You don't know how people are going to perceive it. Is it, that initial fear in not knowing, what the book is going to do?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what took me so long to publish, because I actually have a lot of unpublished manuscripts that are just sitting in my closet in a file cabinet. And
wow.
I've been writing for so many years, and I just never did anything about it for the simple fact of what you just mentioned, fear. And, fear makes you restrain. It makes you hold back. And while your family and your friends may cheer for you and say, hey, this is a good story, you don't know how the public will react. And I kind of liken that to, you ever see people who perform on Apollo and you say, how in the world did they get up on that stage?
Right.
Because you know how they got up there? Somebody told them they were good, and it was probably, their mother or somebody like that, or one of their friends or something like that. So I just felt like that. I felt like, okay, you guys say that this is a good story, but once I get on that stage, I might get booed. The Sandman may come out and say this book is crap. So I had that type of fear, and then I said, well, you know what? I prayed about it, and I said, well, whatever happens, this will be a learning experience. At least I can say, okay, that was just book one. People get a pass with book one. Hopefully. But the response has been quite the opposite, really. Where people have enjoyed it, and they're asking me, when will the sequel be out? So I'm really, that's encouraging to an author when people are asking you, when is your next book coming out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Because if they don't ask you, the first one was like, That's when the Sandman comes into play. Like, don't write nothing else.
Hey, B, if they don't get back with you, if you say you never got back with me about my book, let me call you back, girl. Let me call you back. It's my other line, please.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious. Before we get out of here, I do have one more question. And just to let you know, Selena, I just purchased your book while we were doing the show, and I can't wait for it to get in and read it. But my last question is, like, what do you want your legacy to be, as far as writing?
I would love for my legacy to be that I wrote books that were entertaining, encouraging, and inspirational, that my stories don't have expiration dates, in the sense that some books you can read just like watching a movie and it's dated. I want my stories to never be outdated, to be timeless, to be like one of the classics that you can always read, no matter what time period you're in.
Great.
That'll make me feel good.
Yeah.
And
outstanding.
And to have my name mentioned with, some of the authors now, like your Terry McMillans, your Margaret Johnson Hodge, Connie Briscoe, J. California Cooper, women who I personally admire, to be listed among them, that would be truly an honor.
Wow.
That's
great.
Wonderful.
Great. Any closing remarks on B-Fry?
No, I just definitely want to say I've enjoyed having you on the show, Selena. This has definitely been a fun show today. See, you got my energy flowing from the IHOP. I didn't have any trouble.
I kept you woke. I thank you guys, too. I really appreciate being on the show with you guys. I was kind of feeling off of your energy.
Oh, great. Yeah. And before we get out of here, I want you to give all your contact information about the book, Twitter, anything that you want our listeners to know. Just feel free to, let everybody know. And like again, everybody, I want to let everybody know I just went and purchased Selena's book. I went to her website and just made that purchase. So I hope everyone listening do the same. But go ahead, Selena.
All right. Guys, if you purchase my book through my website, I'll personally autograph it for you. All copies are now on sale, actually. The paperback is $8.99. I'll sign it for you, and the website is www.booksbyselena.com. That's BOOKSBYSELENA.com. And you can visit me on the social networks. I'm on Facebook at Books by Selena. My Twitter handle is Books by Selena as well. Very easy to remember. And you can get the Kindle edition, only $3.99, half price. So make sure you get that as well.